Hello, Ahmed. How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good, good. So I want our viewers to know I'm speaking to Ahmed Kaballo of Sovereign Media, and we are in Nairobi, Kenya, uh, with someone helping us with an iPhone. So it's not usually what you'll see. We're going to do our best. Um, we are here because of what was originally called the France Africa Summit. The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, is here in Kenya. And there was supposed to be development and trade deals, but of course anybody who knows about the history of France and Africa knows that cannot possibly be true. And if anybody knows anything about William Ruto, the president of Kenya, we know he does not mean anything good for the people of this country. And they had to change the name. What did they change it to? Africa Forward? Africa Forward Summit. We're speaking on May 12th. We were joined by other comrades from around the world, literally attempting to protest today. But talk to us about Kenya and about why this connection with France is taking place and what it really means.
Sure. So I think it started back in July 2023. So that was when there was a revolutionary coup in Niger, the third revolutionary coup in the region. And a very strange thing happened. President William Ruto decided to condemn the coup. Now, anyone that knows anything about African politics, it's very regional. East African presidents talk about East Africa, West African presidents talk about West Africa. It's a very unusual step for a president in East Africa to condemn a coup in West Africa, especially because Africa's full of governments that have come in via coup. So that was the first signal that there is a closening of relationships between France and Kenya, because obviously we knew Emmanuel Macron was very much against the coup, and he was actually trying to push another English-speaking country, Nigeria, ECOWAS, to military intervene in Niger and reinstate Mohamed Bazoum. But at the time, Burkina Faso and Mali said on us, and that was the foundation of what was the Alliance of Sahel States. So that was the first indication of Ruto and French coming together. But we've had many more, not just regarding France, but Ruto trying to show that he's very much in the Western camp. When the US was desperately trying to get a police force to intervene in Haiti, they were struggling. They initially went to the Caribbean states said to them no. Yet we have a English-speaking country in Africa, thousands of kilometers away, that decides to do this. In a country where they don't share the same language, they know very little about it. And again, that was an indication that Ruto was showing the European powers, the Western powers, the Washington consensus, that we are very much in your camp. And then we saw October 7th. Again, October 7th, we had William Ruto come out and condemn Hamas. This is very strange for a country in East Africa to take such a statement. He said nothing about the 2.5 years, over 70,000, according to some reports, hundreds of thousands of people that have been killed. So he's trying to reposition Kenya. Kenya historically has, like many African states, tried to be non-aligned. Ruto is trying to say, no, we are very much aligned. Even though in the speech that he gave yesterday, he quoted Kwame Nkrumah's famous speech where he said, we look neither east nor west, we look forward. It's very clear that William Samoei Ruto looks very much towards the west.
And Macron, it was very interesting in his remarks. He said that we are the Pan-Africanists. Did he not say that?
Yes, he did. He did, which is just a ridiculous thing to say.
Of course.
I mean, if words have no meaning no more, then yeah, I guess he is a Pan-Africanist. I guess I'm from Czechoslovakia. Like, if words have no meanings, we could be anything we want to be, then. But it's ridiculous because he is one of the leading forces against Pan-Africanism. If you look at the vanguard right now, where is the vanguard of Pan-African movement? It's in the Sahel. In the Sahel, they're trying to recreate what Madiba Keita what Sekou Touré and what Kwame Nkrumah tried to do with the 60s in trying to create a confederation of states. They're doing that, and their number one obstacle is French imperialism. So not only are you not a Pan-Africanist, you are the number one obstacle to Pan-Africanism in the region. When Benin had a coup and it looked like Benin was about to join the Alliance of Sahel states, it was France that pushed Nigeria to use fighter jets that we never knew they even had. Yeah, the fighter jets that they've never used to take care of the terrorists or the Boko Haram problem, all of a sudden it's been deployed in Benin to stop what looked like a revolutionary coup. Of course, we don't know if it was a revolutionary coup, but we assume it was because of the forces that united against it.
And just a couple of weeks ago in Mali, jihadist groups have inflicted terrible, very destructive attacks on Mali, killed the defense minister and members of his family, and it is assumed that the French were involved in that as well.
Hello, everybody's okay?
Yes, that's Booker Omole. I'll get you later, Booker. our host.
We're just doing a quick interview.
Okay, good. That's all right. That's good. That's good. That's Booker Omole, General Secretary of the Communist Party Marxist Kenya. So in Mali, the events in Mali recently, France was involved in that.
Yes, and initially to say that, it was called Kremlin propaganda.
Yes.
But we've just had Radio French station claim that they've investigated and they found that there was Ukrainian special forces on the ground and there was members of the French Legion on the ground. So what would they be doing in Mali? If Ukraine is fighting for its life in Ukraine, you think all of their resources would be used to defend themselves, not be in Mali trying to take out a revolutionary coup. And we know that there was obviously some foreign interference because firstly the two groups, one of them is the FLA, which is Tuareg separatist rebel group, and the other one is JNIM, which is an Al-Qaeda affiliated group. Ideologically they're very different, have very different aims and have fought each other in the past, yet they're now in coordination and their attack happens at the same time and they're in the opposite side of the country. So for people that don't understand, Mali is 5 times bigger than the United Kingdom. This is a huge country which doesn't have the infrastructure. So how can you communicate and orchestrate something this big where the reports are saying 12,000 fighters that participated in this attack. So it obviously has some foreign interference. It's obvious who would be, if we look at any crime, look at the intent. Who has Mali kicked out of their country? Who did the foreign minister and the prime minister accuse at the UN General Assembly and at the UN Security Council of supporting terrorist groups? France. There's a anti-France sentiment happening in that region, and if we look back at the history, when Ahmed Kaballo said he doesn't want to be part of the CFA Franc, he doesn't want to be part of the French colonial region, what did they do? French forces put cement down pipes and tried to destroy any infrastructure that they built. And what we're seeing in 2026 is the same thing. If you don't want French support, then we will do everything in our power to destroy your country.
And lastly, talk to us about your new documentary. And when people, talk to us about your documentary.
Sure. So the documentary is about Batuk, which is the British Army base here in Kenya. Its biggest HQ is in a place called Nanuki, which is on the foothills of Mount Kenya. But there's actually several locations, and there are thousands of British soldiers that rotate here. And me, as a British citizen, I had no idea that there was, number one, a British base in Kenya. Number two, it's the biggest British Army base, not only overseas, but anywhere in the world. So it's again around 5 times bigger than the biggest British Army base in the UK, which is Salisbury. And it was created in 1963, the year where Kenya allegedly got independence. Because if you're getting independence from a colonial power, why would the same year you create a huge military base that is tens of thousands of hectares in several different points? And you know, we were hearing the testimonies of people from that region. We interviewed the niece and the sister of Agnes Wanjuru, who was a Kenyan sister who was taken back to a hotel, stabbed, killed, and thrown in a septic tank. But she's the most famous case of Batuk abuses, but there were so many more. There were Maasai farmers whose cattle were stepping on minefields and blowing up. They were dying from water, from the contaminated water, because the British are rolling around in the ground, pretending to be in real battle-like scenarios, throwing grenades and all sorts of toxic and chemical artillery, polluting the ground. We found hundreds of cases of mixed-race children, going back decades. So we met somebody who was 60 years old, whose father was a British soldier, and we heard of a 3-year-old. So this was going on for decades. There's been no real attempt by the British Army superiors to stop this act. And according to an Amnesty International report, there's been 650 alleged cases of rape. And then in the last few years, there's been 35 cases brought to the Ministry of Defence in the UK, where they claim to have a zero tolerance policy on that. Not one, forget an arrest, not one person has been sacked from their role.
And you're just reminding me of something. The British destroyed records of the atrocities they committed here in Kenya, murders, tortures. That also went on for many years, but they just destroyed the records.
Yeah.
So I assume nothing was done about it, aside from them saying, "Oh, sorry, we don't have the records anymore."
Yeah, not just here, in all of their former colonies. I forget the name, Operation. We can fill in the gaps later.
Yeah.
There's a name for it, but they destroyed the records of all of the colonies. Of course, Kenya is an infamous case because they had concentration camps in Kenya. They had very severe forms of torture in Kenya. If I give you a couple of examples, Kikuyu men, testicles were tortured with pliers. Women were raped. People were sodomized, and this is documented. This is documented. We have interviews of former British soldiers admitting this and saying they did what needed to be done. All this was sanctioned by Westminster and London, and this happened within, not within my lifetime, but certainly within your lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's in the memory of people that are my age, because they have aunts, uncles, grandparents that were involved in this. And the greatest tragedy for me is, we were just about to march to the Dedan Kimathi statue. Dedan Kimathi, the field marshal, the leader of the Mau Mau, he was hanged, and here we are, more than 60 years after so-called independence, and the British still don't let us know where he's been buried. So he's been buried in an unmarked grave without any dignity. His wife died a few years ago, a poor widow, not knowing where her husband was buried. Yet that doesn't stop King Charles from visiting here, getting the red carpet treatment. It doesn't stop British diplomats coming here. It doesn't stop British companies operating here. Kenya exports flowers, it exports coffee, exports many things. And when we look at the supply chain, it's British companies at the top. So, my trip to Nanuki to do the documentary on Batuk, it doesn't even feel like neo-colonialism. It feels like good old-fashioned colonialism, the old-fashioned type. And in many ways, and what the comrades here have been advocating, there needs to be a new independent struggle.
Yes, that seems to be what all of Africa needs. The fact that a president of an African country can decide that it's best, for him and the class he represents, to be a friend. Kenya's a non-NATO ally, a friend of the U.S., to become a junior partner of U.S. and European imperialism. So when are we going to see? We saw a preview of Batuk. When can folks see this film?
Hoping to get it out next week.
Next
week. Comrade Vijay Prashad gave a recommendation, which I'm trying to put in, where he said that we need to talk about the destruction to the land. We talked about the destruction to the people,
right?
But the land itself, and the example that he gave was Vietnam, and how he was being told by a soldier that nothing can grow here for 100 years, right, because of the destruction. And it's a very important point. Of course, my editor's not happy because he thought the job was done. But
well, I might add, I don't agree with him about that. So anyway,
okay.
So we'll talk about that. And what people will be able to see it on the Sovereign Media site,
the Sovereign Media YouTube channel, which, as of yesterday, the start of the France-Africa Summit, Sovereign Media is based in Nairobi. Our YouTube channel got taken down without any warning. So we're in the process of appealing that. Hopefully we'll win that appeal, and hopefully it'll be on the YouTube account. If it's not, then one of the coalition partners, maybe Black Alliance for Peace, can host it.
I would be happy. Black Agenda Report will be happy to share it. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ahmed, for this impromptu interview. This is Ahmed Kaballo of Sovereign Media. Thank you so much.